right, Matthew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you.
Excellent, excellent. So this is Bestseller Live. I'm Rhett Power. Cynthia, my brilliant co-host, is off today, but I've got Matthew Missimer here with me. Matthew is someone I've gotten to know over the probably a year or so now, and he's got a new book called The Paradox of Having Your Shit Together. He's the CEO of the Motion of Gratitude. You sold a company a couple of years ago, but now your new mission is the Motion of Gratitude. And so let's get into that today. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be
man.
here with you and chatting.
So congrats on the book.
Thank you.
And so what inspired you to write this? Was it, you had this long experience in the finance world, you sold your company. What was the sort of motivation to go down this road and start working with people and creating a program for gratitude? Why did that become the mission, and why the book?
Well, the book, I feel like it was part of the personal healing journey to actually write it. From the age of 12 until 33, I chased money. And my analogy is I was chasing a unicorn up a mountain. I got to the top of that first mountain. There was no unicorn, and there was a bigger one on the other side, which for me was fatherhood and having a good marriage. And I wanted to, write these words to potentially expedite those fallacies for some young people as they're starting off in their careers.
Okay. And so who is the book for?
So the book's for, I've always enjoyed fables. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist.
Yeah.
And I really liked reading those types of books as I was coming up. And I wanted to write a book that shared my spiritual journey in a playful way, but also it is a cautionary tale. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to share to an audience of people who are feeling like they're going through the motions in life, mm-hmm. and they're looking for ways to find themselves or find what's next. And it could be a tool for them to read to potentially learn that the path that I went down might be good or bad.
Yeah, I hear you there. How did your 16 years in finance and chasing money, as you said, how did that shape you? Like what you came out of that? Did you need to go through that to get to where you are today? Was that a path you had to go down first, you think?
I think so. Absolutely. So I joined the financial company that I was a part of through a top 10 internship in the country when I was 19. I was a sophomore in college at St. Joe's in Philadelphia. And I really just signed up for the internship as a resume builder, but I had always wanted to be a Wall Street guy. I thought, okay, if I make a lot of money, life will be good. And everyone does it in New York, so I'll do that. And fast forward to today, the company that I'm building today around teaching people the power of gratitude, I work a lot in corporate spaces, and there's a level of respect from my background that allows me to get in those doors. Yeah. Because I can speak a language from that past life in finance to drive home a point around the healing journey and the work that I do today.
What is that?
The work I do today?
Yeah.
So I teach people to live, love, and parent consciously. And what that means is, well, it starts with ourselves. We have to love ourselves first so that we can show up for others. And how do we connect? And I've studied many spiritual practices, and I believe that many of them, the destination is gratitude, but not this #blessed or the thought of gratitude, the actual feeling of gratitude dropping from your head back to your heart. And I want to teach as many people as possible how to love themselves again so they can show up and serve. And I believe we have a massive challenge in our country right now with caregivers. And they're showing up with empty tanks to take care of people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You talk about in the book sort of the paradox of outward success versus inner fulfillment. Can you share an example of that from your own life?
Oh, absolutely. I think why don't we walk down the materialistic path first? I was always that guy that showed up in the nice car. Once I had success, right? You show up in the nice car, you've got the nice watch, you've got the nice suit, and people perceive you to be doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an internal journey that's going on that if you're chasing the wrong things, then you're just constantly, what's next? What's next? What's next? And although you look like you have your shit together, you are very unfulfilled because you're constantly chasing what's next, and the present moment does not exist in your reality.
Right. However, let me ask you this. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Is it human nature, though, to have that? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, or I'm trying to think, like, how do you, because the way you show up matters, right? The way our appearance matters, and the way we speak matters, and the way our hair looks, the way our presence matters. And it matters in the sense of whether, I don't know if it's respect, or I don't know quite what I'm getting at, but there's still got to be an element of, you've got to be put together for you to be successful, even talking about what you're talking about with gratitude. I mean, to go on stage, for example, you just came off stage, you just got back from a trip, right?
Yeah.
Where you were talking to groups of people. Is there still an element of that you have to live with?
Oh, for sure. I think, at least for me, I'll share what I had to go through. It was I doing it for them, or was I doing it for me?
That's a good point. Yeah.
And now, I still like to show up as the man I am today in a persona that I want to portray to society, but it's in the most aligned version of myself.
What do you mean by that?
I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not for other people.
Okay.
So for me now, this is who I am. This is the man I'm showing up as. This is let's use a watch, for example. Like, I used to wear a specific watch every day because I wanted to let people know that I was successful.
Yeah.
That watch sits quietly up in my bedroom, and it still means something to me sitting up there.
But you don't have to wear it to feel
I don't
confident.
have to wear it. Exactly. It doesn't define me anymore.
And to feel confident in your own skin.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to that that place of comfort? I mean, does success then give you the freedom to get there, or like you made it, right? You did well. You did financially well. Like, does that give you that freedom or that ability to do that, or you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, it's such a chicken and egg scenario. Well, like most entrepreneurs, you cycle through highs and lows, right? So where I think the ultimate test is, at least even coming out of the past 6 months, is the amount of investment required to build this second company, and going back to one of those financial lows and still feeling empowered by the person you've become. I think the ultimate test is to be able to show up regardless to the season that you're in, but you have to go through a lot of challenging situations to learn those things. I grew up without money, then I had money. Life is easier when you have access to money. And once you learn that it's not going to provide happiness, you have a different motivation for having it. And I think for me at this juncture, it's for a commitment to service of others. And I learned to have the creature comforts along the way.
Yeah, no, it does. I think people often have a bad relationship with money, and I think for me right now, what it means is, as you said, right, it's about being able to be of service and do good in the world. And when you have money, you can actually impact and affect change, and you can support people and yourself to be able to do that. So it is an interesting transition that you've made here, right? Where you have a different relationship with money and it means something different. Talk about, I'm so fascinated by this concept that you have of gratosis. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So it's a paradox. As you can see, I like working inside of paradoxes. Mm-hmm. So what if gratosis was your next diagnosis? It's a paradox to create a pause, a line of reasoning where you actually have to stop and be like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, it stops you, that's for sure. You're like, what is that?
That's very intentional. So gratosis is the process, state, or condition of gratitude. Deep in your prefrontal lobe, there's a part of your brain that wires and fires a certain way if you default to what's going right. There's no name for that. So we made it up. And the goal is that, modern brain scans are really only about 30 years old. The positive psychology department at the University of Pennsylvania in 1972, so many of these thought leaders at the time were being made fun of for their theories. And fast forward to 2025, all of their theories have been proven correct. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So I wanted to identify that and label that because when people label a diagnosis, they start to connect to something. Okay. So if you're labeled with an issue, now you go and try to solve it. Okay. Well, I want people to be labeled with a positive issue that now they want to keep breathing into, maintaining that state of consciousness.
Yeah.
So my thought is we have Eastern philosophy and Western medicine, right? And this pendulum swings back and forth over time.
Yeah.
And gratosis is actually an attempt to come to a middle path.
Okay. How's that journey going for you?
Well, it's been 7 years, right? And it's been full of false starts because we have 3 kids, right? So this journey started in 2017. And then, I was still deep in the financial world. And then during COVID, my wife and I and our kids moved onto an RV and traveled all over the country. So that was false start number 1. And then we moved to Utah. That was false start number 2. Then we moved to Costa Rica, false start number 3. But now we are deeply rooted back where we're from. And our kids are now 9, 7, and 6. So this is a long answer to your question. But the reality is the motion of gratitude, the opposite of the motion of gratitude is going through the motions. So COVID really changed my wife and I's definition of the motion of gratitude. And now we're grounding that all back into what we're supposed to do next. So the last 6 months, we've gotten so much momentum, more than we did the last 7 years.
That's incredible. I got to ask, because if you know my background, I've lived overseas for most of my adult life and traveled quite extensively. And I was talking to a friend today about living in an RV, and I worked out in Yellowstone for right after undergrad, and I admired like these older people lived in RVs and they worked out in the park for a season, and then they'd move to another park for another season, and that was their retirement. They had this lovely, they worked part-time and had this lovely sort of subculture life that they were living, and but I'm not sure I could live in an RV. That must have been crazy with kids. How did all that do you think those 3 experiences, living in Utah, moving to Costa Rica, and the RV, do you think they helped you actually focus more and get the momentum, help you with the momentum that you have now?
I actually think we were testing our theory.
Okay.
So what I teach every day is gratitude is not a soft skill, it's a survival skill.
It's true.
So Shannon and I, my wife and I, have put ourselves in very hard situations to prove that our theory works. And whether that was taking our kids to 36 states in an RV, or going to Costa Rica for 5 months with, 5 backpacks and 5 suitcases, living in one of the poorest countries in the world, but one of the happiest places to live.
Yeah.
I think we had to prove to ourselves from a lived experience that what we were willing to put everything on the line for to teach out into the world actually had legs.
Yeah.
But
I
it
think
was
that's,
hard. Yeah.
oh, I'm sure.
There were
I'm
many
sure.
hard parts.
Showed you what you're made of, though, I think, probably.
For sure.
Uh, what was the toughest experience in that?
You know, when I was in finance is a very linear world, right? 1 + 1 = 2. There's lots of rules and boundaries and framework and structure.
Mm-hmm.
The nomadic journey, as you know, flying around and doing what you do, it requires relentless flexibility.
For sure.
And the amount of patience that's required to do it by ourselves, add on 3 kids. So it's just like every week there would be something new that we had to tackle. And now the flip side of that is the 5 of us are very, very close.
Yeah, I think that's and you can never replace that.
Yes.
So for readers of the book, let's get back to the book here.
Sure.
I got us off track here. For readers of the book, but I think it was a good off track. I think people can relate to what you're talking about. But for readers of the book who feel stuck in that sort of busy trap, of appearing successful and doing all the things you do when you're successful, joining the country club or the golf club or the whatever, right? And eating at the right places and doing the right thing, having the right car. I guess, and I guess a lot of us get to that point where we're unfulfilled. That's unfulfilling. It's how do you break free of that cycle? Because it seems to me you get stuck in that, right? And there's a big cost to breaking free of that.
Yeah, this one was really expensive. You know, the middle of the book is my ayahuasca journeys. And so few people put those notes in a book. It's a radically vulnerable path.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you open yourself up for all kinds of criticism or whatever. But
you name it.
Yeah.
And excuse me, I did it on purpose. And it was a very conscious thought to put those notes in there because so many people are searching for tools.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is plant medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to put the cautionary tale of my own psyche inside that book so people could have a sense of what they might have to battle if they choose to go down that path. Mm. What I've learned on the healing journey is the more intense that you are, the more intense the tools that you might implement are to come back to center. Okay. So I'm an intense human, as you can probably tell. So I required a very intense path to deprogram the line of reasoning that I was operating from for 18 months or 18 years. I mean,
okay.
I think most people don't have to go down the path. I honestly believe that if you're going through the motions of life, you're feeling stuck. If you surround yourself with the right people, there's a much gentler approach to cracking open to finding your way.
Where do you find that network?
Yeah.
Those people, because that seems like, and I think you're right. But I think one of the challenges, I mean, you and I are part of a community, but I feel like that's really hard for a lot of people to find the people that can help them through that, support them through that, where you can it's safe to have that conversation.
Yes, and specifically where you live in the world, really determines how safe it is to have that conversation.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
And even here in the United States, I mean, in the Northeast, it's a much more, I think a good word might be closed, appropriate culture. versus living in Costa Rica, where it's more wide open. People are sharing their thoughts and their feelings very openly.
Yeah.
So I think finding your tribe is critical and hard. I've struggled with that, Rhett. Now we belong to a community that feels very aligned, and I'm grateful for that. Because it's been such a challenge to find, Shanna and I wanted to create one grounded in gratitude and create a safe place for people to show up and share their story in a community that's, we all wear bracelets. It's just it's a positive gratitude anchor. So like my dream is you're at the airport one day, you're sitting at the bar having your dinner, and you see someone else wearing this bracelet, and there's a connection point.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That's the goal.
That's great. For you, is this your like life's mission now, your final life's mission, besides the kids and the family and be a great partner? And is this what you want to do forever?
Yes. But the beauty of the motion of gratitude is it has 4 different verticals. So it's very, we work in corporate spaces, we work in financial literacy, we work in schools and with veterans. So the overarching organization has so much beautiful diversity that allows me to spend time with so many diverse humans. So yes, this is the mission, and what it looks like each week tends to be very diverse. So I think it's going to keep me busy for a long time.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
What is, if there are 3 takeaways you want people to have from the book, what are they?
So the first is it's a story of my journey. And it's intended to walk you through in 3 parts. Part 1 is what were the paradoxes I had to learn. Part 2 is how did I reframe those through the ayahuasca journey. And then part 3, which is most important, is how do you integrate that information into the new version of yourself. So 1 is it's a story. It's meant to be a walk with me. 2 is it's a cautionary story of plant medicine should be very, very respected. It should be done in the cultures in which it was curated from. And it should be done in a ceremonial way with people that understand the impact of it going into your body.
Okay.
So easy way to say recreational use of these things, I think, is a bad idea.
Okay.
And then 3 is it's really the story of the hero's journey. And, if you've studied that paradigm of the walk of the human experience, we want to go through that cycle many times. We need to. Yeah. So it's to me, like people are like, well, is this like your memoir? And I'm like, no, it's just one of those heroes' journeys and what I hope to be hundreds in my lived experience.
Yeah. Where can people get the book?
Amazon.
And how can they find you? And you do programs, you do talks, you have a program. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So everything in our life is the motion of gratitude. The website, the motion of gratitude, Instagram. On there, you will find information about myself and my wife. The work that my wife does is focusing on trauma, breathwork healing. That's her main modality. And the book is, I did it through Amazon. So if you search The Paradox of Having Your Shit Together, there's an asterisk in shit. Okay. So if you're searching, yeah.
Fantastic. And thank you. This is fascinating. I imagine we'll have you on again with another book, with another story to tell us. And it's been a real pleasure, Matthew. Thank you.
Great to be with you, Rhett. Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I have one question for you. One more quick question.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do a book giveaway to the audience? Because they love to connect with our authors. And I hate to put you on the spot, but if you'd be willing to do a book giveaway to one of our listeners for this, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. That's easy.
I appreciate that. Should have asked you that before we came on, but I forgot. So
no worries, right?
But I wanted to make sure we got it in there. But I appreciate it. And you've been listening and watching Bestseller Live. I'm Rhett Power. Cynthia Johnson and I will be back next week with another book you should consider, because that's what we're doing on this program is we talk about books that matter and books that can change your life and help you be the best version of yourself. Thank you very much.